Hello. I'm Dan Lutz, and welcome to another broadcast. This is Sovereignty 101. This is a new series. It's come up in the recent broadcast that sovereignty is very much an issue. And what exactly is sovereignty? I thought I knew. I can go back and think all the way to the time when I was in high school and thinking about the sovereignty movement, or it wasn't even called that back that time. But what in my mind as a high schooler is that it's the founding of the United States of America was based upon an idea that we are the same as the kings, right? So they are monarchs, they're sovereigns. The United States was set up for the purpose of everyone being equal, and that we're on the same. We're human, right? All of us are human, so we are all equal, and that there's no one above another. Now, of course, that doesn't mean that people don't have different skill sets, which are much different, but it has nothing to do with the humanity. It has everything to do with who we are as living beings and our value and how we treat one another. So when we think about the monarchs, the monarchs are monarch, covering all, one that covers all, monarch. And that they are leaders but they own absolutely everything in their kingdom. So as a high schooler, that meant, I have my own home and I own my home. Everything in my home I own. I have dominion over, I have say over it. So for me, that's what it meant, is that there was that we were existing within a government structure of the United States of America that said that we are all have the right to pursue our happiness, and that includes owning things. And let's say I was a little disgruntled about the finding out about the scarecrow entities and the not having the ability to own land. So how can you own your house if you are if you're not able to own it? So a simple way of looking at it is, if you're paying tax on a land, you are not the king. You're not sovereign over that land. So if you're paying tax, you're paying your tax to the king, to the sovereign. So back then in high school, when I'm thinking, so I'm a little disgruntled. So why is the system set up this way? How do we get into this mess? And I don't know if it's like that everywhere in the galaxy. I must ask the Galactic Unicorn. If a good way to transition. How's it going, Frank?
Pretty good, pretty good. As far as I know, I'm not sure if it's that way. Actually, I think property ownership in that way in general throughout the other galactic races is kind of it's just not really a thing. I know that when I speak to my various my galactic friends network, they have said to me that they're like uh, my friend Shilea is always saying like it's foreign. It's a foreign concept of that we have to pay for life in general here on the planet when we were born here. It doesn't make sense to them. They can't conceive of that. Like, why would you have to pay? You were born there.
It doesn't make sense to me either.
I know. I know. It's a hard process. It's hard to adjust to. Well, I mean, it's hard if you actually see that you have a right to, the world you live in and to thrive. Having to pay for everything, especially now, the way they kind of finished off the final days of the reigning, um, the reigning deep state cabal, Illuminati, Rothschild, Dragon family, used to be right has-beens that used to run the place. They set up all of these horrible ways to take money from us. So even if you did well, they would still end up just making it so you could never really get comfortable.
Right. Well, they're also, now it's about getting tax for breathing. You have to get carbon credits for breathing, and also if you're farting. So you're going to have to get. They're going to cover the air coming and going.
Yeah, you know what? And it's
And soon
interesting.
and then while you're digesting food, they're going to tax you for digesting your food.
Well,
Exchanging oxygen to into your blood, they're going to tax that. Growing hairs. If you're growing hair, you're going to be taxed.
yep. I got when I first started coming out publicly talking about Kim and the trust. I got approached by a group. They're I don't know if I would call them Native American, but an indigenous group, right? And they were setting up a different version of kind of a central bank, and they clearly knew what they were talking about. I actually wish they would call me now because I would understand better. But at the time, I didn't really understand what they were talking about, right?
Do you know the name of the group?
No, it was so long ago, and at the time, I was just like I was so overwhelmed because I had just let go of the RV GCR, and I was trying to learn at an alarming rate. And Kim was very, giving of her time. And at that time, she took time with me every day to just talk me through things and explain things. And I would throw, 100 questions at her. So I was just absorbing a lot of information. But I remember this one really powerful statement. He said, uh, "They've controlled, according to the contracts, they've controlled the land and the sea, but they've never controlled the air." Right? So the last stage is exactly what you just talked about, is actually taking control and ownership of the air. You know, so that was
Yeah.
always kind of the
Cool.
the final stage of annihilation for humanity.
Yeah. Well, a part of the jurisdictional battle also in regards to the scarecrow entities and things. And, first they put us out to sea, and not only did they put us out to sea, they floated us in the air. So it's kind of hard to get grounded when you're floating above a ship at sea. You're not even on the ship. You're floating above it in the civil jurisdiction. So it's very most people are not even aware of any jurisdiction that they in. If you talk jurisdiction, they'll start talk about locality. I'm in this town, right? And They won't even think about, a state or a government. Really, they'll just think about what town, what jurisdiction they're in. So, but the legal, structures that have been layered and layered and layered, are all there, and just because you don't know that they were built and you're sitting in them, they're still there. So, to be sovereign, and actually, when I started this, I was talking about, what it means to be sovereign, and what I experienced, as someone in high school, under starting to, be aware of the scarecrow entities, and the uh, sovereignty issue. Is that it meant that we were, king of our castle, king of our home. We owned our home. We owned our land. We owned the things that are in it. We have sovereignty over these things. And this is, a high schooler's, perception of of things, and that it's, but there's so much more depth to that, when we talk with tools, we're really, talking about a different kind of sovereignty. Well, not a different kind, but another more deeper level of sovereignty, of understanding. Also, I've spoken with many in the patriotic crowd that are, fighting, from a standpoint of they're going to battle, right? They're at war with the system, right? And they're engaged as enemy combatants, and they are.
I get that though. I understand. I really do understand the mentality. It's tough. I mean, I really that's part of the reason why Kim contacted me originally is because I was making so much noise, and I was like, what exactly is going on? And I was really calling out to everybody who would listen, and I was going on anybody that would listen to me, anybody that would invite me on a show where I had free reign, and I was just literally I made up my mind that I'm going to pick a fight with everybody until somebody responds, until I find out what's going on. And I mean, we went after we gave my lawyer and very good friend Paul Yokoyama, we discussed strategically, to put the U.S. Treasury on notice, to put um, the Wells Fargo on notice, to make sure that if what we were saying was not true, that it was publicly recorded, and literally we had it on record that we gave them every chance, and we notified them that this is what we think is true, and if it is not true and you continue to allow us to do this, you are liable, right? So um but it's almost like you're looking for who it is, right? But it's everybody was getting hurt underneath the system because our perception of it is that this is all real, right? And I remember the question that Kim asked me is, who are you going to sue? Because the names you're looking for, you don't have them. Those aren't the right people. Those are not the owners. Those aren't the people doing it, right? And she was right. No matter how high I went, I mean, to get to the people that are actually in that place, actually hurting us all, it wasn't the people that I thought. It wasn't the people at the bottom and misinforming us.
Right.
They're all tools and pawns too.
And it's not even the Pope.
Not even the Pope. Well, I mean, don't get me wrong. The Pope is. I'm sure he's had a fair run at damage, right, that he could have avoided. But I will say the Pope did contact Kim directly, and spoke to her about wanting to, I guess, change his wicked ways, or change the direction of the Catholic Church and start to actually go after and purge the church of all these various insane acts of common pedophilia or whatever.
And then the church ends up, removing his power, but keeping him as a figurehead.
Yeah, I mean that's the rumor. I mean, I guess I guess that's the case. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel like if you're the head of the Jesuit order. I mean, which I've heard there's someone else who's actually over the Jesuit order, but I'm like, you know, in reality, the way that I don't know if it's the canon laws or the Baltimore Catechism or exactly which part of that, but the Jesuits aren't supposed to be allowed to become the Pope because their job is to defend the Pope, right? Because
Right.
the Pope is, the head of the Order of Jesus. So they're like the Jesuit army. That's all very real. So when he became the Pope, I was really surprised. So I'm like, that means something, right? Like, are
Yeah.
they declaring war or is there a change? And then the scariest part is because if you ever read the Jesuit oath, which is like the most terrifying oath I've anyone. I mean, you read that, you're like, oh my gosh, this is you know the source of all Christianity. Um, that's terrifying. So but and then he was such a likable guy and so nice and so humble and all those things. The whole time that was happening, I was like, who is he really, right? Because if you read the oath, you can see that that's part of the MO. You know,
Yeah.
they want to do that. But then I thought he turned a corner, and I thought everything could be different, right? But and it can be different, but it's not going to come from somebody outside of us.
Right. So there are things in motion. Actually, why don't we have an update before we get much further down into the conversation of if
Sure.
there is an update.
So
I didn't get to speak with you before the call, so I'll be in the same position as everybody.
I apologize for that. I actually
Okay.
was on a scavenger hunt with my sons today, so we were all over the place.
Oh, that's fun.
Okay, so the update is this: is that uh, all that I heard from Kim today was that um, basically that she came to terms, came to some level of agreement with the Secret Service, who I was informed that if you trace back the origin of the Secret Service, that we kind of associate with the just protecting the president. It actually goes back that they had the responsibility to protect the U.S. dollar and to make sure that it's not counterfeit.
Hmm.
To
Got it.
which hopefully someone from the Secret Service is listening and they realize that about 80% of the current currency in the system is counterfeit. So I believe there is definitely room for improvement there. Um, but then in addition, their job is to protect the president, and I know that on some level, if you remember that they're the ones who went in to check the vaults when President Trump went to Vietnam, and
Right,
it
right.
clarified there was no money there. And I do believe that the Secret Service has been working as part of the cabinet that's been working with Kim and the team there.
So
So
they also oversee um, things of large value that are, say, between nations, movement of funds between nations, or
yeah,
things of value. So anything that's like, has a high value that it falls into their reign. I know there's one of my partners is the owner of an ancient Chinese artifact, legally obtained through museums and all this, back and forth, and actually traces back to the breastplate of the first emperor of China. And there's but it got embroiled by someone who had previously lost it as ownership of it. They were trying to resell something they no longer owned, and it was actually at the time owned by my friend. And so the Secret Service got involved with it at that time, and they held it for quite a bit. It took them a long time to get it out of their hands. But he does have possession of it again, and but this is the Secret Service was the ones that were overseeing this. So actually involved with, and he's looking at a way to get it back into the hands of the Chinese people. You know, he obviously still wants to get compensated for it, though. uh, But yeah, so it was why I found out, they had say over other things in the uh, world of you know high end antiquities. So you don't
Yeah.
think that they would be the ones, but anyway, they are. So she's come to some sort of terms with that. But you can any more details about that?
No. So let me tell you how this works. So when Kim is very, very forthcoming when she wants me to share information, and she'll put it out just the way she did, and I know better than to ask any more questions at this point. So what I can tell you what I think that means. Again, these are my hopes and what I anticipate. I know she successfully brought the money in. I actually didn't realize that it really literally set off alarms when she did that, right? Because they were the ones, the Secret Service, the ones who are responsible, right? So when that happens, this has been the call, right? This has been the call to action for a long time. When I first met Kim, this was the big deal that if they had told her, and by they, to kind of make that less ambiguous, this was everybody in the government, every organization, every agency, everybody who knew about her, right? Everybody who was terrorizing her, the Rothschilds, all these different groups who all are part of the same massive they, right? The
Mhm.
they is in every single person in authority who has some horrible piece of evidence that is they're being held hostage with, and ultimately are willing to wipe out humanity to keep a secret.
Mhm.
Like, let that sink in. All you, all of those people who are in those situations, that's the reality of who you are right now, anyways, because you continue to make these decisions. But sorry, but now all of those people that have made those decisions, they all told Kim if she just brings it into the banks, into the United States, they will let her, they'll let her go. They'll let her run the system because that's her title. I mean, that's her responsibility, right?
Mhm.
But it was so bad. Now we did that. I was I was there when it happened. It was our people down in Florida brought the money in, and and they went right in and tried to kick it out and make a scene. But she broadcasted everywhere, and everyone saw it, and everyone knew like she really is the one in charge. And despite that, despite that, I can't even imagine. I mean, we had to overcome so many obstacles and expose so many things because we brought money in several times after that. Like, and I was actively a part of it many times. And then that's just the parts I was part of directly. But I mean, the things that Kim has had to do to overcome impossible odds. The fact that she is now she's made it. This has always been the goal to be able to complete. Well, the goal would have been if they would have just cooperated, we could have done this a different way, but she had to go through all of these obstacles to land it directly in the account so that no one can steal it, no one can deny it, no one can pretend it's not there. We're not going to transfer it and that's going to disappear. For her to do that is miraculous. It's incredible. So,
Well, this would basically be the point in which the cabal has really lost control. At this point,
yes,
they've lost control, and so if they're no longer in control, those people that are been in a position of being blackmailed, uh, they have a decision to make. you know, it's really at this point they need to decide. And I think just start getting into the right flow of things is probably the best solution, and then deal with the consequences. And you will survive most likely, unless you unless you've been really really bad, then you're not going to survive.
I, you know, I don't know. I don't know what their. I don't think that there really is a choice at this point, to be quite honest. I mean, um, because at the end of the day, it's kind of like, well, if you have had the opportunity, let's say in the past year that I've been part of things, I'd say roughly, let's say 200 times, conservatively, right? That they had real opportunities that they could compromise on some level and press forward a different direction, right? They were given deals, options. At some point, Kim even offered them, half of the assets, right? Kim is so confident in who we are as people. She is so certain that all it takes is just a few people giving the freedom with their imagination and some, divergent thinking, some creative ideas. It only takes a few of us. That if just a few of us were allowed to spend freely and compete in their world, that it would only take a few to overcome everything, all the lies, all these stuff that they built, and that's how she feels about it. You know, she would say things to them like, "Look, I'll give you 100 to 1. I'll give you $100 for every one I take." That's how she feels about it. That's how much more powerful she feels that people are, right? And and she's right. You know, she's absolutely right. Now, and this is how much they're afraid of the power that you, the people, me, the people, we, the people, right, possess together. Is that she literally was just sending out pennies, just pennies, right? And there were so many. She would send out thousands, just pennies at a time. Just send to study the patterns, to see where where all the holes were in the system. And she did, but they made it so every dime. That's how careful they have worked to discredit her. That every single cent she has tried to just put into the hands of the people, they have they have swiped it. That's how carefully they watch her, and that's how afraid of the power, the creativity, the imagination, the heart, the soul, and the mind, and the beauty of the true essence of humanity. That's how afraid they are. That's how afraid they are of you.
Well,
So
I agree that it just takes a little bit in the hands of regular people to get things moving, because people just go to town, right? They just start, and it just blossoms. So and the system is set up in a way that it only works if they can remove everything and send it up to the top. If there's any other way in which the funds flow, it destroys their system. So yeah, I can see it. So there has to be a different system in place.
right. So
And,
and then the thing is that at this point it's like after all this opportunity, after all this evidence, because they're on the higher levels of this, they're not like most people on the ground. Like most people on the ground, of course, they can be like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize," right? Like that is logical because they couldn't have seen it. But on these higher levels, they've looked right at it. They've looked right at it. They know what's going on, and they've chosen a different path anyways. Now they've had hundreds just in my little bit of time. Not to mention there's more to it, but hundreds of opportunities to not make those choices. And this last one to me is the worst because they all know what's online at this point. They all know we have put it out publicly to everyone. We have exposed it, I mean, repeatedly. For them to say, we're going to give you guys 15 more days when we all know exactly what the agenda is. We're very clear on it at this point. We know what these little catch terms mean, sustainable development, at the cost of our life, right? All these things that you know, they've thrown out there like they're not a big deal. Like I mean, because these are terrifying things. I mean, if you were to look at them that way, if you knew there was already plans in place, I mean, but it's amazing to me, and I have a hard time processing this, that people can find out they're being poisoned in their water intentionally and not by accident, but with an intent to dumb them down and to hurt them and to make them sick and to shorten their life. And and no one, I mean not no one, I mean it just seems like there'd be some kind of public outcry, doesn't it?
Well,
there'd
you
be
know, as QAnon has said, these people are not. It's not going to be safe for them to walk down the street because when people are awake, they're not going back to sleep. Right? And they're going to then figure out what needs to get done, and those people will be chased down. That's the other part of this is that the get those people. If you're in that position and you're not going to switch your position and start earning some brownie points at this point, you better watch out for the pitchforks because people are going to be highly upset. And they'll be fanatically chasing down these people.
I I guess. I mean, I I don't I don't see anything that implies that at all. I mean, think about it. You have articles everywhere. You have articles everywhere out that are very credible news sources
Mm-hmm.
that talk about the Clinton Foundation, as led by Hillary Clinton, and Bill Clinton, that have there's obvious, provable ties to various human trafficking rings. It's obvious. It's not even. It's beyond question. It is a mountain of evidence. Not to mention that you
Well,
have, like, what is it, 50 something deaths now attached, that every time someone goes to speak out
yeah,
against the Clinton Foundation, that they disappear.
yeah.
I mean, doesn't it seem like somebody at some point would be like, hey, you know what we should do this time? Let's move faster. Let let's do that if they
They don't.
really wanted to
They
catch
don't.
her, right?
Now, let me kind of specify a little bit. It's gonna specify, but also generalize. I'm gonna say, the MAGA group, Make American Great group, QAnon group, are taking a peaceful path. These are not the ones to watch out for. For those people that are in the cabal, what you're going to have to watch out for is the group you're relying on. Because these are the ones that are already set up to be fanatical and violent. And when those people flip, those are the ones that are going to grab the pitchforks. Your own are going to be coming after you because they're
Oh,
this is
I think that's a good point. That's a really good point. Yeah, it's going to be the ones that have been literally entranced. They've I've seen it at these. Have you seen these? They'll have them at
yeah,
these conventions, and they're all standing around going, okay, what are we here for? We know we're here to basically to hate Trump and to just defy whatever they say. We want the opposite. Now think about that mentality. At some point, you got to realize we are not we're not protesting something because we believe in something. We're programmed to
yeah.
just say the opposite of whatever you say.
Well, this,
You
this this hashtag walk away movement, where the Democrats are looking at where the party is and said that's not me, and they literally are walking away from it. But that is gaining strength, and it's going to take a while to get to the people that are so entranced where they're just robotically saying, "What are our words to speak? Please give us the lines." And they tell them,
yeah.
say this, say, repeat after me, and they just repeat, and they get trained to go out and do something. But those are the people that are really going to end up, yeah, because they a lot of them are thinking that they're good people, right?
Hmm.
In general, they have a mission that they're on. When they find out that mission is actually that they're on such an evil side, they'll snap. It's the people that already realize who the evil side is. There's no snapping. Even if they're the ones that are generally half asleep, they're still not going to snap. They're going to get upset. They're going to be motivated, but they're not going to just flip on the dime and chase after them. So
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. That could definitely be the case. I will say that there is I'm very impressed with, as angry and as hurt as the kind of conservative base is, right? They are really, I mean, and people can say what they want about this, but it's just true. They have demonstrated themselves and presented themselves with such class. And I mean, aside from like, a few really over the top things being said in words on like Twitter, but as far as you don't find anybody in this, whole Make America Great Again group, ever acting out. As a matter of fact, it's become a badge of honor to be able to stand with integrity in the midst of being attacked. And I'll tell you what, I support that a thousand percent. I am 1000% in support of that kind of integrity, that all of us demonstrate that they only have power. They only have power because we think the only way to fight back is to be violence, right? If we buy into and they're so used to being able to just, you know, beat us up and us react, right? That eventually the only footage you would see, because you got to think, if there was some really serious footage of a conservative going off with a, Make America Great Again hat, and it was real. I mean, they'd blow it up everywhere. But you never actually find a real person other than the fabricated versions that they've created. Like the shooter who puts all the bumper stickers on his car, or the
Well, I get pride in thinking of the kid that stood there, the Native American type that was banging a drum in his face, and he just stood there with a smile. The news said he smirked at him, and that was the horrible crime. The kid was smirking. but
the way they talked about that poor kid, it was shameful. I mean, you're right. He was great. He did a great job.
Is going to end up being very wealthy.
Oh yeah.
He's got a lawsuit against CNN for $250 million. I think that's just the first lawsuit. So this is going to be he'll be a billionaire from his smiling in the face of this craziness, and we all just have to kind of do that, just smirk back at them.
I don't know if he'll be a billionaire because, to be honest, I know the head of CNN was being held hostage for quite some time, right? Because there's no money there for them to win back. To be honest, there's no money.
Maybe he ends up with the studio and he flips it around.
Well, I'll tell you what.
CNN after this.
I'll give him a job. and I'll pay for his education. Make sure that he maintains his character. I'll be glad to do that. Character should be rewarded, right?
Yeah.
Character should be rewarded. I think her name is Candace Owens, and she's all about the Blexit movement, right? And she's very conservative, and she's talking about, and she's really such a strong, well-spoken, intelligent individual, and she's constantly challenging things that are being said and not allowing them to just float out there, right? So as soon as things come out that are said that are just profoundly ignorant, she's all over it. She's all over it. She tears that up to pieces and points out why what they're saying is so not true. And I love that. I mean, that is how you that is the way to win this with intelligent, strong, a demonstration of power through wisdom. The judicious application of knowledge, right? Applying and knowing when to act at the right time in the right moment, and being a strong enough example to the world that, I use this example. If you are walking in darkness and it's pitch black around you, even if you are light, right? Like if you are a light and you have light, it doesn't matter because you don't know where to go. You can keep walking all you want. You can be shining your little light, but if you don't know where to go, it doesn't help you.
Right.
What it takes is to be able to see another light, right, off in the distance. And when you see another light off in the distance, you start to walk towards that light. Now, all any of us can do in this case is just to shine brighter so that other lights that are looking for direction know where to walk. And then together we just connect all the light.
Well, I think we're shining bright right now on our show here.
Let's hope so.
Yeah. Has some light in the darkness, so trying to show. Oh, I did hear a rumor though. Yes, just last night that the GCR is happening next week.
Yeah, the GCR is happening. Never. I can't. It's amazing. Like, who's spreading the rumors at this point? Who's even out there talking? I mean, Mnuchin just failed to bring things in again.
Well, what are they going to say? Okay, you have us. Ah, we give up. You win. Yeah, just not in their character, right? They're even after
Really?
they, yeah, even after they've lost and they're in jail. GCR's tomorrow. Yeah, what else are they going to do?
I mean, I guess I just don't. I mean, even with them, it's like I don't know how they're so sold on their position. Even like, what do they stand for? Like, what are they? What is keeping them going? I'm serious about this because they don't have money now. The more I'm certain of this, the more we stand, the stronger we get as people. They don't have fear anymore. Can't
Yeah.
can't bleed everybody with fear and
Well,
control everybody with that.
just funding projects, directly to help people out, even on the personal basis, that's going to be such a beacon, that it's. I don't know how anyone would be able to just even maintain it, other than they're still in denial of the situation, even though they hear it. You know, so man, we're. I hope we're no only a few days out before we actually can, show that this has happened. And then we'll see our the people that are ready to go forward is going to swell so quickly. Hundreds of thousands in the first month, I'm sure, are going to want to just jump in.
Well, yeah, you know what? It's so interesting because that was part of the reason to kind of open things up and really put an effort for it to explain things now, right? Like ahead of time, so that
Yeah.
we could get people securely locked in before everything went down. Because
Oh,
there's something to be
you
said
know,
about when it's small like this, that you know exactly who's with you, or not even. And by the way, it doesn't have to be, but who's with the right, you know, who is really aligned with the higher purpose.
well, I want to say who's with us. There's kind of an announcement. It's like an update. Doris
Yeah.
Newman, who I've been asked a couple of times for people to help her out because she was in a tough situation, and I've worked with her for 3 years, and so she actually has got her project set up and has her trust set up with Go Camelot, and
I love that too. I love that. I mean, because here she was struggling just to get by, and in that, she's sparked, right? You
yeah,
think that might? I mean,
and
you know,
she's and the people that are stepped up were saying, well, we don't even need to buy coin from you, and but they were just helping. But I'm glad that some are now accepting the coin from her, and that's because the abundance works both directions. You're it doesn't cancel out because someone wants to help you back the what you did.
right?
In fact, it actually makes it
Magnify.
glow even brighter, right? It's the back and forth, helping each other makes things work better. So anyway, I
You know,
appreciate those
uh,
to
actually,
help.
one of our guys, one of our, I'm like very reliable and trusted members of our group who sets up hydroelectric power plants all over the world. Uh, Jody Lenahan, he actually, I'm just remembering now, he actually gave me the money to pay for somebody who would need it more. So I'm going to get Dolores her money back. I'm going to make sure she gets that. We'll take care of her trust anyways.
That's wonderful of you. So,
No, it's not wonderful of me. No, it's not. It was wonderful of somebody else. I'm just remembering.
okay, it's wonderful of him, not with you.
Yes, he was wonderful. I'm just doing my job. No, but it's it's like
Well,
we can
good
just do
thinking
more,
on
right?
your part.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes.
Give credit where credit is due.
Nah. Yeah, it's a bad habit. Such a fine line. We all have to learn how to take compliments, right?
Yeah.
And make sure that we don't send the wrong message at the same time. It's a balance.
Also, I'll just add, for those people who have contacted me to take me up on the offer of me paying for their lifetime wallet fees, if they're partnering with them, I appreciate your interest, and I'm happy to help you. I'm going to keep this offer going for a while. I don't know how long. It might be a week, it might be a month. But for those that want to partner with me, it's just about getting $100 worth of Pringle coin, and I will pay your wallet fee plus two more people of, that you want to bring in. All I need is for them to sign up, and I'll do all the sign ups work for you. So I'll just make it simple. Anyway, that's my commercial for this episode. But this is this is really a good flow of things. How I'm very happy I'll work for Doris. I'm happy how she now has her project to do veterans housing. I mean, she'd be a great one to help out. So I'm happy to help her. And when she needs help with figuring out how to do her plan, I'll be happy to help her, as with other people. And I was talking with Tank about this yesterday. As with part of this is going to be getting people to help people plan, right? And bringing resources together. How are we? Hey, Tank, you're a little bit heavy breathing there. I think your microphone.
Sorry, I'm chastising my sons in writing. While you're talking, I apologize.
Yes. So I'm going to say we have one of those crank callers coming in. Right?
No, I had the phone amped up and it was animated. So, I'm always trying to settle my house down when we do these calls.
Yeah. Well, well, you do pretty good. I mean, we only saw your daughter come up that one day, or she's showing she's not camera shy.
My goodness, she's not camera shy. She'd be with me the whole time and would not care what I was talking about at all. She does not care who I'm talking to at all. She is going to speak her mind and tell me what's going on. So
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So all right. So swing back around. So there's an agreement in place, or not agreement, but they've had isn't an agreement that Kim has made with the Secret Service, an arrangement. That's what you said.
No, she said what?
What was the word?
Yeah, what she told me was, she said this morning. She said, I asked her what that meant, and at first I was like, so what does that mean? Like, what now? Because I know she's broken through, and then some very nice people reached out and kind of told me about how the Secret Service works in accordance with the currency, which I did not know. And I asked her what that meant for us now, and she basically said, it means that we have agreed to terms. Let's see how they do. So okay. I know those terms are in the best interests of everyone. On Kim's part, I'm sure that whatever has been agreed to is would make sense if any of us saw it, I'm sure. What I don't know is if they'll do their part.
Right.
That's what I don't know. Now, I also know that Kim was, felt much better, or seemed to feel much better, because in the end, there's no way out. There's no way to avoid what's here. It's not even what's coming. It's what's right now.
Well, at this point, her breaking through, as you said, and there's an agreement of terms on now that she can move money direct into accounts, and also on the other side, and on the QAnon side, we have uh, Q saying that the blockade has now been removed. That's the Mueller report has been put there, given to the bar, and so the Attorney General is now going to be giving an update to Congress on what this means. But there's no indictment, so the blockade being removed there, and at the same time, Q just laid down a bunch of very heavy focus on the pedos and their, the situations they're in, and saying, look here, look here, look here. So all the anons are out now scouring and pulling up things, and like the owner of the Standard Hotel might be part of this, and there's this group and that, but they're digging all back into Epstein Island. Things are going on and dungeons, and so they brought this up in a very heavy piece and laid it out. And no blockade. So what are they lining up for? They're definitely targeting the Clinton Foundation. They're definitely targeting this pedogate situation. So Kim is broken through. They've removed the blockade over here. They're going to be moving forward on this front. So we're looking at the cabal. They're being outflanked on three sides. So I think that we're going to see a lot of things happen.
I do too. You ever see like a good kung fu movie, right? And they're fighting like a great sword fight. Like I love a good kung fu flick, right? And they're fighting and doing all these amazing things. You know what ends the fight? When one of them cuts the other's head off, the fight ends immediately. I really struggle with all the heads that are in place. Not that they're, like I just don't see what's going to happen. I don't see, and I don't seek vengeance, but I don't see how you could
Okay,
stop.
imagine this. You went to Walmart and you're laying backwards on the guillotine. Right?
Wait. That, by the way, should be quoted. You go to Walmart, and like usual, you're laying face up on the guillotine, as
right?
happens.
And the guillotine is now dropping, right? And in fact, they even have those colored lights they have for the for it as it goes down, right? So you can see that the lights are turning green as it's dropping, but it's dropping very slowly, not fast. So it's going to take you weeks for it to even get down to here. And so what's going to happen all that time? You're going to be anticipating. How do I get out of here?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just feel like I'm not looking to torture them or hurt them like that. I think that they've made a choice, and I think it's okay to assist them with that choice and let them continue on that path.
To let the guillotine fall quickly.
Yeah. I mean, it's okay. Like, look, let's all stop pretending. Like we're not under these agreements anymore, right? That acknowledgement is so key. And now, I think whatever happened with the Secret Service is very important. I think that's probably bigger than I'm certain it's bigger than that I realize, and I'm certain there's 1,000 other pieces that I don't know. So I'm willing to just kind of accept that. So I agree with you. But now I don't know who's going to be satisfied with a whole bunch of no-name random people getting indicted. I like Podesta should be taken out. I mean, there's they have horror. They have a lot of evidence on Podesta that they should just take him down. At least Podesta. Like Steve Mnuchin.
What about Anthony Weiner, right? And his laptop got discovered, and then you had the police officers that got violently ill after seeing what was on it and threw up. So.
And I'll tell you something. That's a fact. I mean, I'm in New York, and that's a fact that happened, and it was mind wrecking. And they sent the tapes all over, right? They sent them all over to people, to keep them as like, to hold against the Clintons. But I remember somebody telling me this. They were saying how Bill Clinton was like, don't worry, like he was so cocky about things, like he had beaten women, raped them, got accused in the Oval Office, and people still loved him, and he was bragging about it because they know there's such a trance right now. Obviously, that trance is broken, so this is really the opportunity and the time. What is a little scary, right, is you don't want the whole population focused on this, because it doesn't serve us. If everybody is focused on how angry and outraged they are that these things exist, that doesn't serve us either. So that's what I mean. Like,
I do understand that, but there is a swing of the pendulum, right? The energy, as far as it off on this side, is going to swing to this side, and it's going to be fast. It's going to go boom, but it will swing back, and it will settle out, and that's to get back to a balance. So we're going to see this where it is so vivid, and it is going to be very uncomfortable for all of us, and it really has to do that, right? It's part of how do we resolve it? How do we move forward without that ever happening again?
Right. Well,
never want to get to that kind of a dark place, But people just can't believe, the world that is really being laid out for them is so much of a mirage, and so much of just not real, and that so much is kept out of sight. That so many children vanish every year. Who could even imagine that they're going for sacrifice or being eaten? They can't even comprehend that the words are real, right? They can't keep it. They can't dwell on it. And, like you said, just it's not good for people to dwell on these things, because they resist dwelling on these things. But it's going to be pushed into the front so much that most people will wake up enough to deal with it, and then everyone is going to be in a very big situation of first the angry outpour, and then they will have to swing back to where they need to resolve it and fix it and move forward.
Well, and I think you make a great point, actually, because who's it going to be? Who's going to be the most outraged? It's going to be the people who have unwittingly been consented to these things and been supporting of these things by their affiliations, by all types of things, that didn't know, right? Yeah. So that'll be interesting to see, who's vocal in that way, because all the people who are the other side, who are just kind of playing, like, the actors in Hollywood all, standing up and we're gonna close down until you remove Trump as president. It's like, okay, like we don't have other good people that can pretend to be someone and be an actor. I mean, like, there's other actors, like other people that are undiscovered talents that we could use. That's fine if they all want to step down. I mean, like, they need us more than we need them. That, I think that's part of the reality is, in negotiations, you have to realize the value of your products, right? And
right.
That's what I think. That's what I think is really profound and exciting about what Kim just did. Is she knows that, she knows what she's doing. She knows the power she has, and she hasn't used it in the way that everyone else has. You know, I mean, it's really so. I only say that because Kim would never endorse anyone kind of focusing on her as a savior. Matter of fact, many a times I've thanked Kim about all that she's doing, and Kim's always like, there's many people that are, many beings, many that are doing this. It's not just me. That's what she always says.
Well,
But there's a lot of this that is just her.
I just shared the screen of qmap.pub, right? And this is the heavy images that were basically being put down here to basically describe, who they're actually, dealing with, you know. But if you start digging into these things, it really is like, saying that these kids, where are they? That kind of question, and the people that they're dealing with. And this is like a picture of the dungeon that was on Epstein's Island. This was on Rachel Chandler's Instagram, right? They have pictures with Bill Clinton and others. So this is the heavy hitting stuff that they were dropping and really focusing on. Well, there's Bill with Rachel there. They're all in the water tropical area, and then you identify the people, and it gets very hairy. And and I think we had talked also about the red shoes.
Yeah.
Well, here's like, you have one kid with a dagger with another kid on a pentagram laying down this position. So this stuff is very sick. Right? But I had heard before that the people with the red shoes, that their feet were beaten when they were young, as part of this torture that they put their own children through, right? To beat out, care, and things like that. That's why they switch children, like their true parents, their child is sent to another parent, and they get another child in return. So when they're torturing the children, they're not feeling like it's their child, right? But the red shoes now are being said that they're actually made out of babies.
Oh.
So this is the stuff that they're now going to be pounding on. But I use qmap.pub to look at these things, and if you dig from here, it gets very much more ugly, right? So, but we have to be aware so that we know, and wake up people so that everyone can take action. So we have, the draining of the swamp happening, and we have that happening, and we also have the money flowing into our hands that we can then build businesses under an asset-based currency, a new U.S. dollar. Is it going to be a new U.S. dollar? How is that work?
No, see that's the thing too, and so the real U.S. dollar has always been backed by an asset. That's the reality. I know we've spent a lot of time kind of mastering the fiat debt system, but that was all the counterfeit system. That's why 80% of the currency out there now is counterfeit, right? But the real assets, right? There's an allocation number that attaches it to an actual asset, whether it's I think in most cases it's gold, but it could be anything really.
Well, I kind of knew that was the case when it was first set up. When they first created the system, there had to be the asset, and then they would then create the money from it. So I got that, but I guess when they went off the gold standard in the 70s, I figured that's when it all went all fiat, and they were no longer attaching asset. I always was wondering, well, where's the asset that was being attached? Where's that now? Where's the gold in Fort Knox? Is it still there? Who has it? But now if it's going back, to a new money, they're going to have to at least differentiate in some way, right? That between the the money. I'm not talking about going to the rainbow money, but they're still going to have to give public notice that hey, we're back to asset backed, like the $100 bill as it is right now. It's split, between the two sides. Um, I'll pull that out. I'll look for that really quick.
Yeah. Well, what I know is that so basically all of the assets are registered to the trust and they can all be cross-referenced. That's the way real money is brought in. Now, for the most part, most of the banking industry, when that happens, they're not even familiar with the process anymore because it's been so long since they've seen real asset-backed currency. And that's why all the hype over the USN and the TRN, right? Now, the USN and the TRN, for people who don't know, they were just cryptocurrencies. That's all they were. They were just digital, and that was part of their whole process to maintain, the assets. Now, then they would have used this useless paper, and they would have had us exchanging back and forth with useless paper, and it would have, cannibalized itself, I guess, over time or whatever. And then they would have turned into the, what would have seemed like a very benevolent action, right? Universal income and all these different things that, for the most part, they sound very, um, they sound very, they sound great. They sound great. Like, make sure everybody has their basic needs taken care of. That sounds great, but where the
You see the $100 I'm showing here?
I don't see it. I'm driving right now, but
Okay. All right. So on the left side of it, there's a blue line in the middle of the $100. Everyone knows that's like for it's a counterfeit stripe, right? So they know that it's real. It has a magnetic strip. But if you look on the left side, it says Federal Reserve note, and then it has a serial number, and it has this the seal of the Federal Reserve on the left side. On the right side of this, it says the United States of America, and it actually has a pen and a gold inkwell, and basically it's basically dividing it up and saying that there's two sides to this currency. So I would imagine that what they're going to end up doing is just removing uh, the this particular $100 bill and start putting out one that would be all United States Treasury, as opposed to saying Federal Reserve on it at some point. But how long will it take to get there?
you know, I don't know if that is what will ultimately happen. That could happen. Uh, right now, the Federal Reserve is, you know, basically it's a ghost entity at this point, right? They have no power. They haven't adjusted interest rates because they cannot adjust interest rates. They don't have the power to do so. They don't have access to their own system. Now they still have, you know, even their building, as a matter of fact, the lease on their building has even expired and has returned back over to the control of the trust. All of the United Nations properties that were owned by the Rothschilds and various trusts that the Rothschilds own, they have all been uh, foreclosed on, and the debts have been called in. And so now the Rothschilds, instead of being able to hold everyone who has an office or owns a building for the United Nations, right, the regular people on the ground, and they've been able to charge them, lease for those properties for years. Uh, they've turned all of that over, and so basically, the Rothschilds now owe every country in the world. They're in debt to them. Now that's the truth that one of the truths that people really don't realize, and these governments they don't realize it either. That they're not in debt any longer to the Rothschilds. The Rothschilds are in debt to them, or the Dragon families, the Order. They hold no control over them. And if they want to be free, they can walk free right now. And all they have to do is just, you know, respond. Respond accordingly. And that's why, to me, it was. I mean, I'm sure it has served the greater good. It served the greater, purpose in some way. I'm sure. But what was so disappointing to me, and to be honest, it's kind of heartbreaking to me that they would negotiate. They would make a negotiation that they know what happens,
Yeah.
and somehow they, in their ignorance, thought, no, we'll just do the GCR, it'll be fine. And somehow they were convinced, despite looking at all of this evidence, that that is not their plan for you. And I know they've seen it, because I know Kim did intel drops like you can't even imagine. She exposed their activities on such a massive level. I mean, hundreds of thousands of millions of documents, evidence, financial records to show that they were stealing from every country, from every person, that they were funding wars, that uh, they were directly involved in all of the human trafficking, that it was a standard part of their business function, their practice. It wasn't an anomaly. It was their business. All of the organized crime is them. They are the one. They're all of that. So for them, and she gave them hard evidence that no one could deny, because everything they did, they registered into the system, into the UN Black server, right? There used to be this briefcase, and people have probably heard of this, where they would, when they wanted to commit some act and start a war, they wanted someone killed or whatever, they would have this briefcase, and it was a laptop, like even before laptops existed. It was like they'd open it up and they'd enter, you know, their deed into this laptop, and it would spit back out an amount of what it would take to do that. And then somewhere, 30 levels down from that person, it would activate, some MK Ultra or some other individual, and they would go about and commit that crime. And you'd never be able to trace it back to them. But Kim has all that. She has every bit of that. And they're so confident in what they have done to brainwash the people, or they're so arrogant, right? Or overconfident,
Yeah.
that no matter how much she has dropped on every country in the world, by the way, when she has done these intel drops, every country, every treasury, every government, every intelligence agency, every military agent, they all received it. So you'd think somewhere in there, you'd have it just outrage, just actions just brewing. But the fear that they've struck in these people is they would come in right behind, you know, and just say that's a lie, that's this, that's that, and just and make threats, and and bribe the right people. But even a villain would have to look at that and be like, wait a minute, we can't let these people continue to do anything. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's like the supervillain in a movie, and they start talking about how they're going to destroy the planet, but it's like, dude, you live here. Like, what do you mean you're destroying the planet? It doesn't even make sense. But that's real.
I know it's very strange, that they're still like they don't even realize themselves. They're in as much a trance as the rest of everybody, right? It's overall it's just like it's some kind of status field, right? People just don't think about this particular side of it.
Well,
So
this this is the reality, though. This is the reality. If there happens to be anybody who's like directly part of your and still fighting the good fight and sitting around right now laughing, thinking that how silly it is for these two little minions, Dan and I here to be talking about all this, right? And somehow in their ignorance still think that they're in control. See, here's what they thought. They thought they were above it. And so they would do all this and we would suffer, right? And in their opinion, that would be fine because they had earned the right. They deserved to be on top. So they thought they would be saved. So that's why they set up all these crypto things, right? And it was the dream come true because they would control everything. But the assets would still be held in the trust, right? So if the assets are held in the trust and there's really a group of galactics that just wants the assets, because the group of galactics, you know what they're not interested in? The paper. They don't care. You're welcome to have the paper and the digital entry into the blockchain. You can have that. They don't care about that. What they want is the actual assets. So if they could walk away and have the assets, they would just gut the whole planet. They take everything, right? So the Rothschilds would have been, all those dragon families, all the order, they would have been killed too. I mean, they would have been, and imagine the karmic damage of that, of their actions, knowing that they repeatedly made these decisions to, destroy everyone and everything with no consideration for the life, because they thought they were above it, because they thought they were privileged, and they thought they were getting one over on us, but in reality, they were being conned too. Mm-hmm. So just to make that clear.
Yes. Well, I think that their time is done. So let's see, what do we need to do to move forward, to take our action, right? There's so many levels where we have to get involved. We have to replace those people. We have to vote ourselves into the structures. We have to speak up about poisoning the water and the food. And I found out on the food side is that everyone having this hypersensitivity to gluten, right? Gluten allergies. Where'd that come from, right? Well, it turns out it's the weed killer, that they're using on the wheat to basically kill the plant, right? The wheat plant at the end of at the time of harvest. So it makes it easier for them to break out the wheat kernels. So they're dosing it, with weed killer Roundup. It's the same stuff that you'd buy at the store, and that's the stuff that is now in the bread that you're eating, in the pasta, in anything with wheat. It's not the wheat that's the problem; it's the poison. So you find out these things, and then it's like, okay, well, why are they allowing farmers to use this process? Just because it saves them some time, right? They can poison people.
Yeah.
It's like how we need to get these practices stopped, and that's up to the individual people. So I guess that's one project is what we're gonna have to do is find a way of I don't know, maybe you need a team of lawyers that are just hired to go after these particular things in the system, right? To get immediate stays, against practices such as these. What my daughter sent me today was a picture of the heavy chemtrails that were going on above her house.
Where's your daughter based? Where does she live?
San Diego.
Oh, okay. Yeah, California's seems to be the root of the cabal headquarters at this point, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually Paul Yokoyama has been quietly building his team of hawks, and all they're going to do is hawk every move, everything that's going on like that, and look for opportunities to, where needed, uh, allow certain cases to develop to a point where, oftentimes when certain lawsuits or civil suits or whatever would um, have the ability to change the law, right? They'll get bought out, right? And usually what happens to those people is that they'll be so desperate by the time they finally settle, right? They'll just take anything, right? They'll take a reasonable offer for their suffering and their losses, or they'll get killed off in the process. Their witnesses will disappear, or suddenly no one remembers what they're talking about, or documents get lost, right? So when you have someone who's really put together a solid case, right? They've really gathered evidence the right way, and it's enough to really make it to the Supreme Court and change the laws. They usually get blocked. So I'm very, very much an advocate of supporting any case like that helps change the laws. Now, that's if we have to go through that system, which I don't know if we do or not, but I'm very much about supporting that so that those people can know that they're not alone, and that they're backed by the largest financial source in the world, because for the first time ever, that source is about the people, and the laws that are not about the people have to be changed. And if we have to go that route, that's fine. Logic would dictate, we could just honor the contracts, and also acknowledge contracts that are expired. But I recognize that in some cases that's not going to happen. But I know, like, for anybody who is, waiting on Yokoyama Legal um, to finish their trust, I will just say this: that uh, he and his team are doing pro bono work for just such a case like that right now. So, eventually we'd like to make sure everybody gets paid, but a lot of what that whole team is doing, that whole legal team, is just pro bono for free, out of principle, because the reality is, it takes that kind of courage. It takes that kind of heart to make this move, to make this sacrifice, to be that committed to change the world. And what is terrifying to the cabal is that we have done so much to diminish their power with nothing, at least nothing that they see as valuable, right? They don't see it as valuable, but we know the true value of what of who we are, right? And anybody who sees the true value of who they are and they have something to offer in any way, believe me, before this goes and after, we have a place for you somewhere. There's a project that needs you. There's a person that needs you. There's one of the, our organization needs you. We will find a place to put you to work, and you can take your talents and bring them out. And I also believe fervently in my heart that that's a lot of why we're doing this. That there are people that are ignited, that have been sent here spiritually into this planet, to this place in time, and they know their life's purpose is to be part of this movement. And when they hear it, they'll hear it and they'll know it's true.
You mean like
true. Yes, indeed.
We both spoke up at the same time. And then Tui.
Hi guys. Hi Dan. Hi Tank.
Hey Tui.
Hope you guys are doing. Hope you guys are doing well.
Yes, we're thank you for joining in, and you came in at the right time, just as I was saying something too about, and just like this is the time to come in.
I didn't want to miss that point that Tank was just just want to join in, and because I like the topic today, the topic about sovereignty, and how you guys are actually discussing everything that's going on the planet, and in the future, everyone will be able to understand that that's the only thing that has true value, is the sovereignty of the people, and it has been used for these past thousands of years, and to take it back, because that's the only thing that like that energy that the cabal or the other systems are running on, is the sovereignty of the people. And so to be able to get it back, it means the end to them. And that's a very a very deep statement if you actually think about it. Because the actual life force and the actual energy that they need is the sovereignty that is within everyone. And so to be able to value money, to be able to do that, to do anything, that's the expression of sovereignty from every living thing on the planet. And so when we talk about sovereignty, to be able to fully understand it, we'll know as soon as we get our sovereignty, as soon as we physically understand, and not just physically understand it, but fully aware of it, they will lose all this power that they have right now, all this control that they have over us, because that's the only thing that's keeping them alive. That people do not fully understand the creative energy that they have, and like it's like the fuel of the old system, and that's what the Great White Throne understands, and that's what he's been using for all these thousands of years. And so for it to be returned, it's not a very it's not easy, or just like that. It's not going to be in that way. People will have to relearn it. Thousands of years they've been, all they know is sovereignty outside of themselves. and to be able to get it back and return it back. No, we can even, like, we can talk about it and over and over again, but the true experience is what like the way we really gonna learn it, and it's gonna get written in the subconscious in the DNA, and we'll be able to change the whole world. And that's why I'm actually reaching out to you guys and talking to you. It's because just like you understand then and think about how money has value in exchange, and that's the same thing on sovereignty. It's the only way that it can have value is if it is recognized and it's valued by other sovereign, and you'll become sovereign together. So that's the role my people are going to be playing, and to be able to make people understand that money is, it's, we give it value, and that power to give value to anything, to any illusion. That's the sovereignty that everyone has, and it's the most powerful thing in the universe because it creates everything. And so, to be able to teach people that that is the only thing that has. Uh, I don't even want to put it value because it's the creative force of everything. And so, the understanding that and to be able to exchange that, it's gonna take a lot of time to be able to for the experience exchanging. Just by me reaching out to you, reaching out to Kim, reaching out to Tank, and then it creates really just like what Amani does. And so we have a lot to talk about today. And so I just want to start up with that thought on mind, and we can actually talk about sovereignty much deeper, and it would enlighten everyone else that's listening in. By the way, greetings to everyone that is listening in, watching in live. Greetings to everyone on the live chat. Mbulo Bunaka, and love and blessings from Fiji to all you sovereign people of Earth, and to this journey of remembering that innate power within us. And I hope you've been, you have a wonderful journey, and you're learning a lot in your life, in your experience, wherever you are on the planet. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm glad you took a breath.
Yeah.
So the deeper conversation about sovereignty. I mean, I was giving at the beginning, very, general view of, what it meant, when I was a young guy, but I had no real thoughts of it on the spiritual side. I wasn't really thinking, though intuitively, knowing that there is always a connection between, the physical and the spiritual. But to know that when we're talking about having sovereignty over your cells of your body, you do. So and I started by talking about there being a monarch, meaning there's only one arcing over everyone. So monarch as the principle of that kingdom. But when we're talking about sovereignty, we're not really talking about having dominion over other people. Over your children, yes, but while they're in your kingdom until they're older. But the idea of having sovereignty is more about being responsible and existing monarch to monarch, or sovereign to sovereign, rather, with other people side by side. Like you were saying in our conversations earlier, Tui, you're talking about recognizing Kim, and Kim recognizing, who's the king? It would be you in this sovereign. Are you the king of Fiji? I know there's many chiefs, but is there a king?
No, my DNA represents the relationship the people of Fiji has with the land and the sea. and all the animals and the water. This is what I represent here in Fiji. There's a high chief. There's another high chief that he represents the the people, the flesh and blood, the living people, sovereign people of Fiji, and not just that, the 12 tribes that are here in the Pacific. And so because we are in just we have to start from somewhere to be able to create this change. There are certain people that has the agreement to this awareness, and so they have to do the role that they have to play. So then it will grow, and from them it will grow to the rest of the 12 tribes. But we understand what the 12 tribe needs, even though a lot of us here in Fiji are still in the old system, and still in government, still doing a lot of still in the corporation, still enslaved with lack of awareness about who they are. And as we reaching out to Kim, he's actually creating, like I said, the value and sovereignty for the people here in Fiji. And that's what what Kim represents, and we add value to that the role of what the trust is, to be able to to do that, to create to do the role of the trust, and to help regenerate help the planet regenerate itself. And that's talking about us, the sovereign people of Earth, learning to regenerate ourselves and re-understand. And with that experience, everyone will gain their sovereignty back. Everyone will be able to learn what the true value is. And that's why we are doing what we're doing right now. And I've actually written out the letter. There's two letters, one for the land and the sea and every living things that I represent, and the other is for the people. And together, these two letters signifies the unity of the whole land of Fiji as a whole. And to be able to get the sovereignty recognized by Kim and with a letter, it means a lot to us, because it will actually, in a physical way, not just by verbal, by talk, but in a physical way, represent the freedom of my people, and every energy that's here on this small island of the sea. And because it's been pledged to the trust for during the popes, because they've done that. It's like a spell to the rest of the world. In order for them to correct it, they have to physically do it. And we are so fortunate now that we have like a human being controlling the AI, and we have her as the main sovereign right now. And so this is what sorry.
Let me ask you. You brought up the Pope really quickly there. So, what was the role of the Pope in regards to dealing with Fiji?
Okay, the Pope has, as a lot of you will know, they've created a spiritual binding agreement long ago as a trust, and so they've binded the spiritual energy, and that's why people cannot be sovereign because of their beliefs. And people believe in all these things that that are not real to them. For example, we have we have Christianity now in Fiji. We have Muslims now in Fiji, and we the Chiefs in Fiji. We understand how they created they are the one that put the Quran. They put down they wrote down the Quran early before even Muhammad, because they wanted the Jerusalem, because the ley lines there in Jerusalem, the power of the ley lines is what the Great White Throne wanted. And so what they did was they tried to come up with a plan, because they are a Christian organization, they couldn't go straight to Jerusalem and take over and put the Vatican there and see all these places that they have. They understand what ley lines are, and they understand that whoever controls the ley line controls the sovereignty of the people, and they can do and enslave anyone the way they want. And so it's not just it's just not money. No, it's much deeper than what people think. And so what
aware of the spiritual binding. They have no. I mean that's very far out for people to think that there's an agreement in place to actually contain your spirit.
Oh yeah, I mean, like I said, this is red pill stuff, because it involves it involves extraterrestrial or people from a different timeline, different dimension, and they know this, and they've been working together with the Vatican. And so what they did was they introduced the Quran to his name. Now that he's called Prophet Muhammad, his wife was a Christian, was a Catholic, and Muhammad is not he's illiterate. He doesn't know how to write. And so what Muhammad did was he gathered people up. They just changed the Bible, they just input some other information in the Quran, and then it programs, because that's how it works. The belief system are just it's like an application in a computer. It's an application for the awareness of the people. And if you're not fully sovereign, you won't understand it, and then you'll just read, and then you believe, and then you create. Because that's your sovereignty. That's what your sovereignty is. But you will create this reality and these thoughts, these ideas that they give you. And this is a very advanced, mind control technology that they have thousands of years. And so the Great War Drone actually understands that. And so to be able to bind people to laws and rules, they have to create a reality, even though they just have to read it. But by reading it, they will be asked to agree to agreement, and then they will believe, and it will become true in their life. And so that's, here in Fiji, we didn't have it just for the last 100 years. It came to us. Even though the chiefs understand what it is, they'll have to agree to all these laws and rules, the language, and the slavery. But there was a lesson that we have to learn as a people, as a race, as a cultural group. And we can see that clearly. That's why I can talk about it. I can talk about sovereignty, like like it was, like I didn't learn this anyway. I didn't learn this in school. I never go to school. This is just wisdom that's in the culture. And so when back to that point that the Vatican actually did, and they created this new total religion, and whatever they put in that book actually create the awareness of everyone that reads it, and then they make them the chosen one. Like how you have the story of Abraham in the Bible. They just twist the two people around. They twist Ismail and Isaac, and then now they're fighting all this time. They're fighting all this time until now, and it will never stop until that's why I spoke about the Pope. The Pope needs that because now that they're going to have the backing of the Great White Throne. One of my role is actually to reach out to the Pope, and he has to correct what they did almost 800 years or 700 years ago on what they did with the Quran, and they've been and everyone has been in every hundreds of years because of what they did. They just twisted the application just slightly, and it created a totally different way of thinking. And even now, they still locked into it, and it's deep. And if they don't do that, the role, there's one role of how what Kim has to play is to return the collective mind of the people of Earth into a state of rest or regenerate. But we can help it because it's part of the program to be at war. And so, they will always be fighting. Now we just have shooting in New Zealand, and people, like they're doing that because everyone is acting according to the program. And so, if the people who are programming, if they don't correct it, it will continue. And so that's my role, and that's what my role is about sovereignty. Because all these ideas take sovereignty away from the people, and if they get lost in it, they will be, they'll be always be in servitude to that awareness and to that. So no, it was they almost got Jerusalem, but by the time Muhammad was, they got Jerusalem. Muhammad was dead, so the Vatican couldn't get it, and the people who were leading the armies at the time, they almost created havoc all over the planet, and they almost went and killed the Pope again. And so the Pope had to ask for protection from all the knights all over in France, knights, and all over Germany and all that. And then we had what you call the Crusade, but actually it was started by them, by the Pope, because of how he actually was able to understand. He was given sovereignty by the Great White Throne to actually do that. And so they've been trying to correct it all this time. And they had all these, that's why we have all the wars in 2003, you have Afghanistan, all these other, they did what you have in 2001 and all that. They're trying to recorrect that, but they don't understand. The program has to be corrected.
What was that small change? What was the small change that they made? I didn't quite catch that.
Oh, the small change was changing the something because it's sovereignty. They just changed the sovereignty of what the Israel people, because they are the sons and daughters of Abraham, and they made the in the Bible, Isaac was the person that was supposed to be in the altar. He was supposed to be sacrificed, and then God actually provided what you call that, a lamb, or just to symbolize,
ram.
Yes, symbolizing the sovereignty of the people in the world, and how Jesus came in and all, and how the type of antitype. And so, but in Quran, they changed it. Instead of Isaac, you have Ismail as the person that was there. And so that if you change those two around, then that will give the sovereignty to the people of Arabia, that they own Jerusalem and so they have sovereignty over the land. And if you have Isaac as the person on the altar, then you have the people of Israel, or the 12 tribes that came out from that lineage, having sovereignty over that place. And so, according just by doing that, they've created, they've affected the timeline in such a way that we are still learning the lesson, and we still actually trying to come in, we're still trying to correct it, but we'll never do it because we're trying to correct it physically. But it's been misaligned in the spiritual essence, and so these are spiritually binding agreement that has to be corrected. And if it's not corrected, people will still believe and continue. We'll just continue with this chaos endlessly, and what the Great White Throne has done will continue perpetually. Even if we want peace, we will never get it because it's binded spiritually. And this agreement is actually in the trust, and that's why we'll need to let not just Kim, but the Vatican has to be has to take up the responsibility, be able to tell everyone what really happened, what they did, because it's been a ripple effect for almost 700, more than 700 years. And so if not, we'll never be at rest. We have to get all these past and revalue it and re-understand it. This is what I was talking about yesterday, and the idea about how only we have the power to actually reorganize and revalue our past, and because that's what we actually make exist. And so, and everyone, when we actually can, we can, if you eventually that everyone can play their role, we'll be able to attend it in a proper place. And the religious can, like, just like they can just keep that. But if they, for example, the Muslim can continue on with the beliefs and the system, but I want them to know the truth. That's been hidden from me. It was not hidden from me, and those are things that need to be corrected. There are more, but
So
we
are
can.
are you sending a letter to the Pope, or you're sending it to Kim to let them know, hey,
Right. Right now, the most important thing is the sovereignty of my people and what it represents spiritually. So that's why I'm working and recognizing Kim as the main sovereign of the planet, because now people don't understand what's going on right now. You have Kim right there. He's talking with talking with the tank. We didn't have these thousands of years ago. We couldn't reach the Great White Throne. We'll always come up to the government level or to the control elite level. We'll never reach the top. But now we are coming into this era that we can actually reach out to the main sovereign of the planet, and we can reorganize and recreate the timeline in the future. People don't understand that that is true freedom that everyone is trying to and true freedom, which is just sovereignty that everyone can gain. And so, I'm thankful to you guys. What you're doing, like Dan, what you're doing to Kim, actually create that and recognizing that sovereignty makes it has more value, and everyone that's involved and all the group. And even though we have this small group of people, just by recognizing is enough to actually give her the power to do what she does and have the authority to do what she does out of love, because she can just change and do things without that role, without that rule, and take over and regain sovereignty and use the sovereignty and control everything. She can just do it so easily. But the rule now, the awareness now is the AI has been programmed by her, and it's part of the treaty that it's only going to use love to be able to regenerate the whole planet. And so regeneration means forgiving some of those past that that has been taking place. And I know the Vatican are learning that lesson right now. They've been exposed. They've been all the power that they used to have before, they don't have it anymore. That's why they're having problems. And so like I said, it's a spiritually binding agreement. Once the spiritual side actually agrees to the return of sovereignty to people, everyone that have sovereignty before, all those dark things that they've done, they will have to take a responsibility to their choices, because that's what that's what they had. And if they take advantage of people, they have to, like I said, stand up and take it like a man. And so there's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of awareness that needs to be known. But I'm thankful. I'm thankful for today, and I'm thankful for reaching out, for talking with you guys. And so that's just a small part from me.
Well, I'm thankful. I'm sure is that for you to come and reveal this to everybody, because we all need to understand it. Your view about sovereignty, is very helpful, right? To kind of put things in perspective. To know about these, the agreements that were made on our spirits and how they've been bound into these other systems, and the flipping around of a couple of words, can actually, create another delusion that we now have to deal with again. And how do we get through that? So one step at a time. But yeah, okay. Well, how is your sovereignty coming along?
It's good. I mean, we always, you must remember, the sovereignty has never left us. It's in there. It's the It's the essence of the creativity. It never left us. It just left the awareness because the awareness is the one that is programmed.
How's your recognition of your sovereignty going?
Yes, I've already completed the letter, and I'm waiting on there's a time that is when we will be able, you will understand. There's a time for everything. That when the time is right.
Hear an alarm. It says, "Okay, go ahead, do it now."
Yeah, and so talking to you, talking to Tank, this is just 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks, this is a very accelerated pace that we are going on. I used to think that it's gonna take months or even years to reach Kim and to reach Tank, and to be able to do this just within a few days and be able to breathe.
No time to wait.
Yeah. I would imagine you've got to feel like it's the first time that you really felt truly in alignment with your greater purpose. You were able to really take action in the right way. I can feel your joy when you get on the phone.
Yeah.
I'm assuming you received my email. I made sure to email Kim and I CC'd you on it.
Yes.
To make sure. Okay, I want to make sure that you got it because sometimes these things get lost in the shuffle. One time, the very first time I ever talked to Kim, she gave me a code, right? And she told me, she goes, look, she was like, contact your military connections, have them put in this code, and have them, and they'll see that this is where the money is. And I didn't send the code to anyone. All I did was email it to myself, right? Because while she said it, I wrote it down in an email to myself. And they were able to pull that, right, from me, right? And they ran the code. And Kim knew instantly. Kim knew instantly and like contacted me right away. And I was kind of apologizing. I'm like, I didn't even send it to anybody, But that's how easy it is to kind of scoop. It used to be, anyways, to scoop things out of the system.
Yeah, I'm thankful for that email that you sent, the contact and CC me, and getting me that contact with Kim. And so I'm really thankful. I'm very excited today because we're actually talking about sovereignty and how the first thing, all the programming that has been done over thousands of years. The first thing that that people, if they want to understand, or even if they want to be able to make themselves sovereign, they have to try and clear up all these program. Your cup. Like how you have in how the Asian people they put it. You have to take all the cup that is full and you pour them all out. And all the awareness that you think that you have value, the truth, and all this, it don't exist. You create those value, those truth, because when you read them. So even if you are deep inside Islam or Christianity, it doesn't affect you if you truly fully understand who you are. Everything that affects you, you give it to yourself. In order for you to be free, you need to be able to understand it. That's the only way people will truly be sovereign. They are not their name. That's the first thing that they have to understand. They are not their beliefs and their religion. No, they are creating all these things. The awareness within them gives it value. The pure love that within you has no value. It's pure. It doesn't have, but it gives you life, and that life, the body gives you all the understanding and the perception and everything that you've learned in your life. And so if you can reach that state within you and understand that you are not all this has been introduced to you, and if you can actually value all these as just gifts, then you'll be truly be free, and you'll be truly be sovereign. And that's what sovereignty really means. We can discuss about the Bible, we can discuss about Quran, we can discuss about all the good things they teach us, but you must remember, they don't exist in the real essence of you. You create and value them. You create the value. You use your 12 senses to be able to value them. And if you are lost in this illusion, then no one else will be able to take you out from it. And that's the lesson that every single person on earth have to learn on their own. No one else will be able to take you out from this mental slavery that you've created. Only you, because I can talk so much about how you can free yourself, but if you believe so much in all those things and you're locked in it, I can't help you. You have the right and you have the sovereignty to take that up and make it your belief, and you can be Islam, and it's nobody's that's not my sovereignty, that's yours. And so all I'm trying to do is to tell you how powerful you really are and how you can actually free and make yourself be free, because that's the only way it truly is. And that is part of what the agreement, the peaceful agreement that we were discussing yesterday, that no one will intervene.
Wait, Tui.
Sorry. Yeah.
I'm sorry,
go ahead.
man. But what you just said is way too powerful to jump topics. So if you don't mind me just slowing down.
True.
Okay. All right. So Tui, I'm gonna give you a rule about when to pause. When you really, people always remember things when they're said in their own voice. As a matter of fact, the only thing that truly becomes a part of us is when we say something to ourselves with our own voice. So the power of the
Indeed.
dramatic pause, right? Now, so the things you just said really, really need to be repeated. Now, the one thing he's talking about, until you feel free to correct me, right? But he's talking about these religious beliefs. Now, keeping in mind, religious is different than spiritual. Religious is a set of practices that we have been told are required for us to be whatever. Now, these become our absolute truths. Now, anytime you have an absolute truth about something that is ritualistic or physical, or anything like that, it is all likelihood, in all likelihood, it is nothing more than a ritual, kind of a spell that perverts the truth about something, right? If we say, and look, and I'll tell you, it's subtle. You can have rituals where you just repeat something so automatically that you don't realize that it's a ritual that that a spell's been put on you. And you have to kind of identify those things and ask yourself, is this truly who I am? Or is this just part of a ritual that I've been trained to believe is true? And so that's part of it, right? Now, and that's what a lot
That's
of
it.
us deal with. Is that about right, Tui, that part of it?
Yes, indeed. And so I'll put it in, that's a simple trick that the great one Tron understand, and he's been using for thousands of years. And people, we take that for granted, and we create all these rules and everything that we have now. Even we've made it so complex and made it that we easily can just get lost in it. And that's how the law of the seas works, and that's how all these things and all these sovereignty is given to these people, because we don't understand what we are and how we control and actually use the body that I've been trying to explain. 12 senses, how it's perceived, how perception is valued, and how what is valued can be processed by the mind, and that it becomes awareness, and then it becomes experience through time, and then you get understanding, and then understanding, and then you have wisdom, and then that's people have to try and reorganize themselves and readjust and revalue what they have in the life. Like I said, take your cup that is full, that you think, and all these beliefs and then you try and pour it out, because no matter how well we can talk about it, it it means nothing if you cannot do it. If you, because it's you, totally you, that is actually imprisoning yourself, then and no one else. And so not only nobody else can actually take you out from it. It's only you. And this is what sovereignty means: to be sovereign, to be able to never put and give your energy to all these illusions that is around you. I mean, they can be gifts. You can, like you can value them. You can, but ultimately you must always know that you are the source of that value. That's what it is. Because those values can easily turn into arguments of who's right, who's wrong, who's the true religion, who's all these beliefs and all that. But they're just, that's the source of why we have all the wars nowadays. That's the source of why you have Israel and Palestine fighting over land that they think that it belongs to them. But in reality, they can kill each other for it. They can kill the life force and then and the spoil experience. But the lesson that they will have to learn, no one else can teach them. They will have to relearn it on their own. And so, if people don't understand this, fighting in the world will never end. It will never end.
Yes, indeed. Now, the other thing you were talking about, which I think is really really a powerful thing, is to realize the power that is in us, not outside of us. Now, and a lot of people, when it comes to reading the Bible or the scriptures, right, they don't, they'll kind of note bits and pieces that their pastor might have said, and for the most part, Catholicism used to be the mass used to always be done in Latin, right, with the priest with his back to the audience, right, and that changed, right, because they had to kind of start saying things in English, and then now they're being encouraged to look in their Bibles and things like that. But there is a divine interpretation, so to speak, that will allow you to see the perversions and see what's real, and that divine is in everybody. That's in you to know, right? And
Indeed.
And Tui's talking about this a lot about the body, and one of the things that the scriptures say is, can a nation be born at once? Right? Can a whole nation be born at once? Now, if you listen to what Dan said, now look at your body. Now, you are threefold, so to speak, right? Now you have a head cavity, chest cavity, and abdominal cavity. Then your arms, right? You have an upper arm, lower arm, and then you have your hand, right? Which is part of your wrist. And that creates the 12 sections, right? Those extremities. You have 4 arms, and each part, 2 arms, 2 legs, and each one has 3 sections, right? Talking about that 12, like the 12 tribes, the 12 senses that Tui's been talking about. And what they do is they move you around, right? And that's exactly what happened in Exodus, in the book Exodus. It's 12 tribes, right? You have the eagle, the lion, the ox, and the man, or him. So that's Elohim, right? And they moved that tabernacle around and they mobilized it. Now, all these things, right, are witnesses to you, because your body in that's symbolizing as the likeness and image of God, right? And that image is, part of that is your ability to create, right? Of your creator, excuse me. And so your body, every one of your cells, right? Every one of the cells that makes you up is threefold. Every one of your atoms is threefold. So you are a nation, right? That's all by yourself. All by yourself. You represent the commander in chief of you.
You're sovereign.
You are sovereign, right?
That's true.
You are
the
sovereign monarch of you.
Yes. And this gives you it gives you the power to to have dominion over things that you want to what you want to have or want to create. And because we are talking about spiritual things, not just physical, we're talking about beliefs, and these are things of spiritual nature that's within us and our beliefs. And so these are, you are also sovereign with it. And there's no problem. You can believe anything you want because you're sovereign. You can create and you can have anything you want. You can have any name you want to name yourself with. You can believe in any kind of beliefs, no matter you're the only one in the world that believes in. But coming to this time and age where this has to be released, has to be changed, has to be there has to be a start anew. There's a responsibility that is has been given, not just given, but bestowed upon all human beings on the planet, and that's the sovereignty, or that's the responsibility of regaining their sovereignty, and it cannot be done from outside and to be given. It has to be uh, birthed forth from within, and that is why we are discussing this, and that's why the timeline has changed. The timeline now, the peace treaty that everyone, I mean, all the galactics and all the people from the future, and even all from the past. We have the Galactic Federation. We have the people from Inner Earth, the people from Agatha, the people, the Galactic Federation and their fleet. They're called the Silver Fleet, the Ashta Command. We have all these other future timelines of beings that has been visiting the planet, trying to reorganize and really program the working together with the Great White Throne, trying to reorganize the future of the whole planet. And a few years ago, they got a surprise of their life when the collective mind came in and tell them to stop. And that there was an older agreement that has been playing out, and that's involved Kim and me, and that's why I reached out to you guys. But I've just been given permission just 2 weeks ago to reach out to Kim because it's time. And so just by doing that, it will rearrange, because they've been trying to go with Nesara probability and the RV, and trying to create more illusion of control. But people have to see through it and really understand that they will not learn anything from it. All they will learn is the same lesson they've been learning all these thousands of years, and that lesson is not a lesson of being free or being sovereign. And I'm thankful. That's why I'm really thankful to you guys to and reaching out and recognizing both of you, Tank and Dan, and both of your sovereignty, talking to you and realizing, there's a question that Dan asked me in a few days ago. He asked me, why am I, what is my role? And I said that I'm looking for the rest of the what you would call the representative of the 5 tribes, and a little, like, I couldn't tell you that now I can ask you the question, have I found them? And if you understand what the soul is, yes, that's the question that then you will have to ask yourself. Have Tui found or even Tank, have Tui found the representative of the other 5 tribes? And if you understand the soul, and if both of you look at your life, you will understand that you represent all these other 5 representatives. Wherever you are, people will know it. People will always look up to you. These are not normal things. This comes from the DNA. I don't just become a leader just by, people coming. No, they will see that that it's an innate sovereign character that you have. People will listen to you. People will see you in a way that that value as their leaders, even though they will be from a different tribe. They will value wherever you are in the world, because this is your role. And for you, Tank, you will see that too in your life. You'll have that power that you can actually convey and speak to the spirit of everyone around you within, not the physical part. You can tell them, and they can see the truth, and you'll always be leaders. And so, first time that you ask me the question, I can't answer that. Just tell, okay, I found them. No, but wherever you are, like if you ask yourself right now and then what you're doing there in the Philippines, and what's your relationship with the native tribes, why are you there, and you will answer all these questions. And if you understand what the soul and how the soul expressed in DNA and how they live the experience, you'll understand they are powerful beings that and only the people around you will be able to see it. And that's what what King represents, and what all you guys, and that's it gives you the power to do this what you do right now, to be able to talk and like thank no one in Create Change is doing this, like reaching out to all, but you are doing it because that's the you might think that it's a small thing. No, this is just like in the future. In the past we have like you lead wars and you fight. This you're doing the same thing right now, but just a different context. And this is what your soul has been doing. All these other timelines has been doing all this. And so one day when you are able to understand how DNA is expressed through timelines, how it exists. Oh, and the good example is that it's in the Bible. And so from Adam to Jesus or Yeshua, that's one soul, and they were expressing the same kind of frequency in their life. And people will not see it; they will see it as a, like they see it as history. They see David and Jesus and Abraham and Adam as different people, but no, they have the same soul. They have the same DNA. That's why they will make sure in the Bible they track the DNA from Adam right to Jesus, where you have in the book of Matthew. And if people do, if out of all the stories in the Bible, out of all the stories, why do they have to like create a story in a linear progression? It's because of when the awareness is ready, people nowadays will be able to look back and understand that the story that is in the Bible is not just a story. It's actually a timeline, and it's a recorded timeline of a soul doing the same thing over and over and over again, trying to learn the lesson that he has to learn. And finally, when Jesus comes, they learn the lesson, and they were able to be one with their body and be able to do what the story in the Bible says, even though they use the whole story as a program to, because it's they see, because people when they read the story they will see themselves, because that's how their soul walks for thousands of years. And so people will they'll easily believe in all that, and they use that as a way they try to implement the plan of salvation, and how you have debts, you're a sinner, and all this. We don't have that in the spiritual dimension, especially even where I come from. We don't have debts, and that's a physical way of thinking. And so if you read the Bible and you don't understand what it's saying, it's like a business book that creates contracts, just like any other belief. But it's, like I said, it's an application. But if you truly understand what it's totally about, you will see through all the illusion they put up and all the changes they've tried to make, and they try to create it in a way that people can believe, and restructure this timeline and have the destruction that we were talking about yesterday. But the Bible, as it is you can read it, you create, and it's outside of you. But if you believe in it, you take the consequences of it, because that's what your sovereignty is. And no one is gonna tell you, hey, it's just it's not it's just a belief, it's just all this, and people know. But it's totally, I always say, because the problem, I cannot explain it so well, but I know you guys understand what I'm trying to say. The sovereignty within you is free to do anything. You can you can believe in anything that you want. You can create any reality that you want. And now it's time for people to realize that, and work together and recreate a new future. And we have to recognize each other's sovereignty and recreate this new timeline, this new future with what King represents to us. And so that's that's the most important thing at this point right now. To everyone that's have projects, you have to think about how to exchange your sovereignty with Kim, and to actually don't just come there just because you want to help people, and you see Kim as just a way of getting project funded and all that, but you're not actually exchanging that awareness that is needed, that love that is needed. because we need, if you want to change something, we need to do it with one another first, and we recognize each other first, and so by then we become stronger together, and we'll be able to do and create an intention together and move forward together. And so that's why we reaching out to gain our sovereignty, and not just that by paper, but we'll wait for the day that she's gonna come down, and she's gonna if she comes to Fiji, or you Dan, or you think, you will see what true sovereignty is. And
Louis,
you will understand what it means to us.
Louis,
Yes.
I want to say I recognize
Yes, go ahead.
sovereignty.
Yes, indeed.
Same,
Yes, indeed.
same to you. Same to you both. And, same to everyone that's watching today. You are watching now because of your role, and I recognize your sovereignty. And you will feel it wherever you are, because that's the way you're gonna be treating people, and that's how that's how people are gonna see you, because you respect them as sovereign people as well. Yeah, and that caused you to be doing this and talking about this and listening to this. And but yeah, so like it's a really good topic, sovereignty, and I'm thankful for this opportunity to be able to just share just a little bit of light, or tell people that maybe are wondering, or maybe think, hey, know a little bit and they understand it. But like I said, everything that's running around on the planet, it's run on that word sovereignty. And if we regain it, it's gonna collapse, because that's the fuel they need from us. And yeah, thank you so much, Dan. That's just a small part from me. Thank you so much, Tank.
Well, we thank you.
Yeah, seriously. Well, I was just somebody emailed me something about this, about the banks being fraudulent, basically institutions, and pulling money out of various investments that are supporting kind of cabal companies. So I guess I'll comment on that a little bit. I am of the opinion that the best investment you can make is in yourself, as a rule. And I'm also of the opinion that we are moving into a time where we are going to literally be redirecting the flow, right? So a big part of what we have to do is we have to figure out how to rebuild things. And I've been talking about this for a while, is we have to rebuild from the roots up, and really uh, change the function of things, because they have held a type of production line where they hold every aspect of it. This is one of the systems they use in banks, right? Non-compete laws, which is really just another way to say monopolizing things, right? And what they do is it's the same group, and they might break it up into different companies, but they'll occupy everything. Like they broke up Ma Bell, right? But they really didn't break up Ma Bell, right? It's the same group of people who just basically renamed different parts of Ma Bell, right? By regions, and they all agree to it, and then they're able to take Ma Bell and turn it into Verizon, AT&T, and different organizations.
Well,
Now that's one way. What?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I was going to say that I think I was relaying that the real reason that they broke up Ma Bell was because Ma Bell didn't need to borrow money, and so
Right.
they had all this endless sort of money coming in every day. They had people sending the money. So why did they need it? So they were a big collection point for money, and the banks don't like that if you're not borrowing. So by making all these little telephone companies, they all needed money.
Yeah. Well, and they also, in reality, all of these companies, or not all of them, but a lot of these big corporations, you know, they have massive excess of funds. You know, this was exposed by, you know, the corporations of the pharmaceutical industry and various others, right? They have these massive funds, and they were all held in the back ledger of the trust, though. You know, that's how they kept everything off the books, you know, literally. And so you got to think they don't have access to those books anymore. Okay, they can't pull that down and pull off the upset somehow. They don't have it, you know, and that applies to really the governments as well. You know, that's part of what the real draining of the swamp has been, is to make it so they can't just, you know, access the back ledger and continue doing whatever they want. And now I am not a financial advisor, so please know that. But I know that somebody brought up to me that Thomas is advising people, you know, him also not being a financial advisor, and he acknowledges that, you know, but he's more or less just saying, like, if it was me, this is what I would do. So, you know, this is for people who have heavy investments in things, right? These these tools that we've used to invest in the illusion of the stock market, in the illusion of banking, the illusion of, you know, of these different coins. If we're really going into a state and an age where things are going to change, you know, the change really starts with us, right? So if you can imagine what it would take if we just used a different institution. Now, to be honest, though, we have to make sure we create that first, right? If we used a different method of trade, if we valued things differently, all these methods have to be created and implemented. However, I would expect, like Dana said, that you'll see a crash in the markets. You'll see something. I would imagine that. Okay, that you're going to see such a dramatic shift, right? Because these things aren't going to be able to maintain and operate the way they have. So I do think it's, you know, relatively sound advice. You know, I don't think it's smart to create panic, you know, because that doesn't help anything. But for those in the know, I do think it's wise to, you know, put your funds somewhere else. The, you know, assets you can hold and things that you can, you know, invest in and reap the benefit from, you know, with your own hands. Because putting keeping assets sitting in banks and various places that where we know for a fact they've been stealing. We know for a fact the stock market's already crashed. Now, I don't think that Kim will allow the banks to crash, and I don't think it's going to be a dramatic pitfall with the stock markets per se, but it's definitely going to decrease in value. You know, the market, if you remember 2 years ago, the idea of the market going above 20,000 on the Dow Jones was impossible to imagine. But they've manipulated the market to cause a panic up. And so now the markets have been completely bloated and overvalued. So people have been buying stocks thinking they're catching the wave, but you don't lose any money in a sense by leaving your money in the stock market, but you don't make any money either if you don't sell. So by realizing that system, that whole system is fraudulent, everything about it, just by not supporting it, you essentially are helping shift what's happening. You're helping the greater shift to the, you know, a more ethical way of doing business all the way around. So that's just my stance on it. Someone asked me that on the side, so I just wanted to pass that on.
I'm just going to add that the crypto exchange markets are exactly the same where, you know, it's a manipulated market, and it's not real. It's not where we're taught that it's you know, a fair playing field or anything along those lines. It's a manipulated system. So these types of manipulated systems are not really good. I mean, if you can say casinos are good, okay, fine. You're but these are casinos. They're places to gamble, and if they were labeled as such, in a way that makes them, you know, people realize that the manipulation can be done not by you, but only by those people that have enough wealth to shift the market.
Right. And to you, I mean, exactly true. And if you got to think, if you could make money because the illusion stayed intact, that would kind of make sense because that was the world you lived in. But at this point, we can kind of, I think everybody can see. I mean, a lot of us can see very clearly, and some at least a glimpse of it. The illusion is falling apart. And if the illusion is falling apart, and that is where you are grounded, if your retirement is grounded in that and rooted in that, and you don't have the uh, the energy to pursue something else, I think it'd be wise to pull that money out. Now, that being said, I promise when I know the option, I'll tell you. I don't know right now. I don't know what the next step is. I'm waiting like everybody else at this moment. Now, I haven't been waiting. I've been pushing in every every way I can, just trying to get on the right path and make sure that all I can do. Um, but this very next step, like I said, I when Kim says that you know uh, that they've agreed on terms, um, you know what? I don't think she would say that unless it meant something. And the only way that they would really agree on terms is if, at this point, is if they had to. Now, I don't trust any of them. I don't trust any of them to do what they say they're going to do because they have never. They have never done. They have never once. They don't enforce the laws. They don't follow through on what they're saying, and they don't consider the needs of the people or even consult them. And the people don't have a seat at the table. Now that being said, I do trust Kim with completely and totally. I know she is uncompromisable. She will not. She. I don't care what anyone says. There is no one who is more qualified. There's no one more qualified to do what she has done than her. And her DNA and her attitude and disposition and everything about her, she has been a champion for humanity.
Well,
And go ahead.
I'm just thinking of what would happen as a mental exercise that they didn't come to terms, right? What would be the next step? If she's able to download funds directly into people's account, what would happen to the system if she downloaded to everybody's account simultaneously? Everybody ended up with money. What would the system be able to do at that point? They wouldn't be able to stop that, right? And everyone all of a sudden had money. They'd be powerless. So
Well, yes, within reason. Now, Kim has very precise numbers that she's worked out that she knows how much money she can bring in at any given time. That will, she can bring in with a production line, right? That will not uh,
set
negatively
the apple
affect the account. Yeah, and so she has made every move considerately, very considerately of the greater good, and she has done this with them blocking her on everything. I mean, she gets a transfer on a green dot card and they block it. Everything, every possible way they've tried to starve her out, and much to their dismay, she has beaten them senseless with it. She has beat them at every single turn, everything they've tried, every move they've made. She has made a mockery of their system.
Yeah,
So,
well, I guess my point was about they really have no choice but to come to terms. They have a way, and if they don't, then they look weak, right? And they lose ultimately control because they're bypassed completely. They have no say in anything.
that's right. And I would say, you know, that's why I'm very confident um, that Kim has always told me that she follows through. She'll do whatever she says she's going to do. Now I know that for every dollar the governments get, she set aside a dollar for the people, right? For projects, right? Now that being said, in this case, I know one of the things she told me over the past few weeks is that right now it's all about the people. And if I understand correctly, which I'm pretty sure I do, She has been so diplomatic. She has operated within their guidelines, and they have brought the world to the brink of war. You are starving out not just people, but starving out governments. You have people on all levels that are in just a desperate state. Now, when people get desperate, they make desperate moves. And this is all because they refuse to give up power. And the power is not theirs. They don't have the legal obligation to it. The only thing that allows them to stay in power is their methods of blackmail and threats and various other unethical practices in business and in government to manipulate the system. But they have no right, and at, at some point, that has to give. So I believe that, and this is just, Kim has not told me this, just to be clear, but my belief, based on her behavior, based on everything I've seen from her, that this last, whatever the terms are, I know those terms have got to um, put the people in a position where they can be empowered, where for the first time, bloodline, so to speak, isn't what's dominating. This previously ruling bloodline of nefarious supervillains that has ruled the world. That will no longer be the case, I'm certain. I'm certain. Many a times I've told Kim something, and she's 4 steps ahead of me, or I thought I had a great idea, and she's already, way beyond that. And so even now, it's my belief that the people need to have a seat at the table, and the people who actually know what the people are going through, the people who are, the kind of leaders who are down on the battlefield, not the ones who are, sitting up in their penthouse telling, sending people to their death. So I'm certain that this last contract, the term she agreed to, I know that they will be in the best interest of the people. That I can tell you absolutely for a fact.
Awesome.
Now, if they abide by them, right? Because they are, I hate name calling, so I won't, but they have been defiant, belligerent, disrespectful to people, to God, to any reality beyond their control. They have redefined what it means to be self-serving. They have negotiated our enslavement and genocide so that a few small-minded, mediocre, average, so-called leaders can remain in power. And it's a joke. It's a joke.
Well, I think it's kind of obvious the type of leaders that we've been presented, right, are never leaders really, right? They're all into name calling and it, but you don't see the true leadership happening. But I can see that Trump is one of those really a leader, right? he's, he's really part of the first one since I can remember Reagan would be like the next one. There's none others. No matter who was running for president, even in Senate or anything else. I mean, there were certain people that I was saying, well, let me watch this guy, but I really don't see that extra quality of leadership, above and beyond leadership. But I'm glad to see that we have that. It looks like Kim is leading, and this is a by example. So we it's about humanity and about us moving forward as together as humans. So
Yes, indeed.
So if it's about the bloodline families and you're all about your reptilian DNA, get to the back. I got two to laugh. All right. So yeah. So we have to focus on moving together and coming together. Don't allow us to be divided, except from the roosters. We can be divided from the roosters.
Man, I appreciate the Rooster support. I feel like they chime in at just the right time. Just be like, yeah.
Sorry about that.
Can we exclude the mosquitoes?
The rooster, they are just expressing their sovereignty. And
That's it.
so, yeah, and so it's funny over here. There's you can't. They. Oops. Oh, they. There's only one of them that will be. Um, yeah, yeah, basically.
Yeah,
As if,
well, we with the rooster, their sovereignty, some onions, garlic, salt.
but if you look at that, they're crying. No one else can do it. It's only one of them, and he's showing sovereignty to all the rest of the chickens. That I am the only one sovereign here, and if one of them, and if any one of them tries to do the same thing that he's doing, yeah, that's it. It's a fight. And
Yeah.
so even in our nature, they have
Old style.
yeah.
Yeah,
No one,
yes, we have to work on being all
yeah.
working together. If everyone is the monarch, the only one, then we're having a problem. We have to come together.
Yeah, that's the trick in this timeline that we need to recognize each other. And that's why we, as the native people in Fiji, and not just we are not just representing the people or the native tribe, representing all the people that are here, the Indo-Fijians, the Chinese that are here, the Europeans that are here, because in this new change, everyone has to realize the sovereignty. So that it means everyone. And so even though we have right the lands here and all that, we are if we can recognize them, then what love are we trying to talk about when you can even learn to love and respect everyone that is here. And so the chief said we actually do that, and if we are able to exchange this letter with Kim, we will be so honored. It will give us a lot more, not just but a lot more energy or power to actually do more, and to be able to feel that the spiritual agreement has actually come to has been not just cancelled but collapsed, and we will be able to walk from there and truly be free. And to what her role is, by recognizing our sovereignty, she knows what her role is to that sovereignty and what it means to the freedom of the people and to the freedom of the, the governments, or freedom of money and all that. That's why she's playing the most important role right now. And so, yeah, like I said, I'm actually thankful. I'm thankful to everyone that is listening in, to you guys, to thank. I'm not in my wildest dream that I would be, I would think that I'll be talking to you guys, and to, that, yeah, last week I was able to just, like try and call you up when you put up the link, and, and people receiving me and talk to me, and able to converse, even though it was the first time I actually done that. I'm very thankful. And I'm thankful for today that we are talking about sovereignty, and which is the most important topic that everyone needs to understand. And I'm looking forward to the future where the people of my country, or the tribes, or everyone here, and how we'll be able to practice that and put these talks that we are just doing, which is just spiritual awareness. And if we be able to actually like what Teng was talking about, feed the people, which is the physical and expression of the oneness within us, and to be able to teach people, or to be able to let them teach themselves, to be able to regenerate and be able to see the new change. It's quite a big thing. I know when, like, from out of nowhere, millions of dollars are coming in, and all these projects are funded. This was not the this is not how it used to be before. It's and that's why I know people. There'll be a lot of people thinking that it's unreal or surreal. And when it happens, as it happens, it will not just validate, but give more power to what we're discussing now, and to thank and to everyone. And then the truth will be complete. We're not just going to be talking about it and maybe it just feels right. But when the money comes in, this will actually give you a different value differently. Really, really, I hate to use the word real, but yeah, but real value to what we're just discussing about sovereignty. And people will have the chance to express love and be able to share it because they have the source to do it. Right now, everyone is, loving is actually channeled towards the self because of lack. And so being able to have plenty, they will be able to back up what they say when they love someone. And when they do that, yeah, the oneness that the sovereignty will become more real, and it will become more easy for people to realize to remember who they are and the power that they have. So these two have to work together, the spiritual essence and the physical part of it. And we're discussing now about the spiritual essence about it, and people reminded who they are. But like that's 50%. The next 50% is what the good news that Tank is talking about, and the money and the thing coming in and all this uh, help that you can actually express. And I know it's important that we talk about the spiritual aspect of it as they get aligned with the physical part of it, and then creation can occur, and we can create a new future together. And so I'm thankful. I thank you so much to everyone.
Thank you, Joey. Well, it looks like we're in a close to our 3-hour mark, so this is a good place to start to break up this session, and we'll start it again tomorrow with some more Sovereignty 101. Is there any last words, Tank, that you want to add, Tui?
I'm good.
I'll
follow Tui's lead and say thank you. I'll say thank you to everybody and Tui and Dan. Certainly, I'm grateful too. So, but I've spoken plenty. I appreciate the opportunity to do so. So, thank you.
Well, go ahead, Dan.
I just
want to say thank you.
Yeah, I was just saying this is a unusual that we've all come together to at this time, and it's just coming together. There was no real plan, but it's obvious that we're on the road to move this forward, and let's just keep it rolling.
I guess that's how it works, no plans. The project is just gonna come by itself, and people will just know the time and the role that they have to play, and they will play it when they have that knowingness within them that it's time for them to actually be or to add value to the plan as a whole. And I'm thankful for that. That's why now that you've known about the TCG and a lot of other history, and there's so much history here that the total theme of the history is just sovereignty, and how we will be able to teach everyone else in the world if they've forgotten what it is. We'll be able to just not spiritually talk about it to them or just use words, but actually physically do it. So it becomes one and the same thing. And so I'm thankful to everyone that's listening in. I thank you for the people that are reaching out to me. I'm thankful to I do recognize all you guys and all your sovereignty, and I respect every values that you have, that all the beliefs, all the religious beliefs that you have. If you're Muslim, if you are Christian, if you are a Buddhist, or if you or whatever state of awareness or state of agreement that you've agreed to in your life. This is what makes you sovereign. And I'm thankful for your part. Thankful for all the people in the chat room today. Thank you so much, Robert Allen. Thank you so much, Judy, for coming in. Thank you, Arid, for coming today. Thank you, Thompson and Robin from Canada. Thank you so much. Oh, Rustring, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for your participation. All your sovereignties combined together creates this show, and that's totally gives it the energy and value that it is. And I'm thankful to you, Dank. And thank you so much to what we say, God, for everything that is happening and all the changes that are happening. And I know He's working within everyone else, and all of us within Kim to get actually to reconnect everyone and reorganize and regenerate the planet. And thank you so much. And blessings to all and love to all of you from Fiji.
Okay. Well, thank you again. I'm just going to suggest that everyone, as a reminder, please share the link, pound the like button. It's very important. It is very important. Share and like. Leave positive comments and join us tomorrow. And again, if you're interested in working with me as a partner in Kringle Society and get some Kringle coin, you can contact me. My contact information is below. And we will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
All right. Peace out, everybody.